morning, good morning, everyone. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International. And for 18 years, we have been here waking it up, telling people to wake up to your finances because we have not been taught how an amortization schedule actually works. An amortized 30-year loan, 25-year loan, 30-year loan, amortized credit cards, amortized car loans. We have not been taught how they work. So we have been here for 18 years sharing the truth with people, and most recently on social media for take it back. This is show number 244. We've been putting the truth out and we're getting pushback. What? There are people out there saying that the math that we use is flawed. And we're going to listen, if you have the ability to pull up on your own device, if you're on Clubhouse, if you have the ability to pull up on your device, YouTube, so that you can see the numbers. I'm telling you, folks, this is going to be life-changing. You know something is not right. You listen, when something goes so far to the left, saying, you know what, we've been 30-year loans are just a part of what we do. 9 out of 10 people there's something wrong with a situation when 9 out of 10 people will never pay off a mortgage. There's something wrong with that. When you can pay off a $200,000 car in 7 years, you can't get a 30-year mortgage. You can't get a 30-year loan on a $200,000 car, but you can certainly get one on a $200,000 house. 30 years. And 9 out of 10 people, I'm not talking about across the country. I'm not talking about, statistics that you can never prove. I'm talking about a real number. You just count up all the people that have a mortgage, and then count up how many of those people have paid the mortgage off. It'll be less than 10% of the people on average. So why would they tell you? People who pay off a mortgage, they can't keep that to themselves. My mortgage is paid off. That's good news. They got to get it out there. So folks, we're going to be telling the truth today because there are some people who are pushing back that what we're talking about is a fraud. What we're talking about is not right. The math isn't right. And I'm going to put it out there for all of you to see if the math is right. So, I'm talking to real estate investors and they're saying, listen, why should anybody pay off a 4% loan when they can make 16% or 9% year over year? They say things like that. But guess what? Here's what I need all of you to do. Whatever the subject, when it comes to math, when it comes to people who are saying that this is the truth or this is a lie, make them show you the numbers. Show you the numbers. Because I'm telling you, when it comes to this 30-year loan stuff, this 30-year mortgage stuff, I absolutely love a 30-year amortization. Because you can take control of it. You want to take control of it. When you control the numbers, all right, you control the loan, you control how much you pay for the loan. That's what's important. So what have you noticed? What have you noticed about your mortgage? What have you noticed about your credit cards? What have you noticed about your car loans? The thing is, if all of your loans were 0% interest, we would not be here today. Okay, a guy like Mr. Dave Ramsey, and when he talks about paying off debt, he talks about how quickly you can pay off the principal, with the snowball method. You know, you start with the smallest loan, and then you pay off that loan, and then you take that money that used to go to that loan and you roll it into the money that you're using now, and now you snowball it into the next smallest loan. Pay that one off, and then you take that money and snowball it into the next smallest loan. You know, it works. It's been working for 40 or 50 years. That system works. But guess what it doesn't do? It doesn't take into account the interest cost of doing it that way. If you pay off the smaller loan and leave their mortgage to last, okay? So while you're paying off stuff, you're paying a ton of interest on your mortgage that you don't have to pay. The average person that uses the debt snowball to pay off their debt, they will pay $50,000 to $70,000 more in interest than they have to. And that's a lot of money. So first of all, folks, we're going to share with you to get the ball rolling. Now, if you're here in Clubhouse, we've had some folks in Clubhouse who's saying that the math is faulty, that we shouldn't pay off mortgages. We should take that money and invest it. And I'm inviting anyone, if you know anyone that has that particular idea, please come to the stage. Please come and talk about it and show your evidence, show your numbers, because we're going to show our numbers today. And when it comes to accusations, you know, or name calling, or, you know, somebody who disagrees, you want to have somebody who's famous disagree with you. Because if somebody famous disagrees with you, then there's something about it. There's something about what's going on, or why would they be paying attention to you? I think there's some truth here that's trying to be, we're trying to keep it hidden for some reason. So whatever the reason is, we've got a clip from Mr. Dave Ramsey, and I got my main man, Kirk Nugent, in the background. And we're going to get that queued up, and we're going to put it out, and we'll let you listen to it if you're on Clubhouse, and if you're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see it. Kurt, do we have it queued up? Let's play it if you got it, man.
Good.
So I am more of like a future planner. Like, I don't like to think just like, where are we going to be in 5 years? Like, I'm thinking more about the mortgage when my husband graduates, because we'll have a much larger income. Mm-hmm. And I have heard a lot about like prepaid interest or prepaid principal. Mm-hmm. And they don't really understand how that works. Like, I was watching the P.I.L.L method, and then he was talking about taking out loans, and I was like, this guy's a nut. So I just stopped listening to it. Yeah. But that's kind of where I was at, was how do principal payments work?
Yeah, it makes it sound like there's some kind of a magic to it. There's not any magic to it at all. You take the interest rate of your mortgage, and you multiply it, or divide it by 12. Okay,
Kurt, that's it.
Okay. And you multiply that times.
So he never, if you watch the whole thing, he never answers her question, how does prepayment of principal actually work? He never answers that question. But when she said, talking about the P.I.L.L method, says, that guy's a nut. Dave Ramsey immediately came back and said, yeah, he's a nut. He didn't ask, who is this guy? Who's the P.I.L.L method? What's the P.I.L.L method about? What do you mean P.I.L.L method? He definitely knows who the P.I.L.L method is and who we are. And he immediately said that guy's a nut. All right. If you didn't hear it, let's play it one more time. And Kurt, when he acknowledges her, that's when we're going to shut it off. Okay. So play it one more.
So I am more of like a future planner. Like, I don't like to think just like, where are we going to be in 5 years? Like, I'm thinking more about the mortgage when my husband graduates, because we'll have a much larger income. Mm-hmm. And I have heard a lot about like prepaid interest or prepaid principal. Mm-hmm. And they don't really understand how that works. Like, I was watching the P.I.L.L method, and then he was talking about taking out loans, and I was like, this guy's a nut. So I just stopped listening.
Did you hear that? He is a nut. And he never answers her question, what is prepaid principal? Prepaid principal. You know, do you guys know what a DVR, a DVR, what do they call it? TiVo, that sort of thing. Do you know why advertisers hate DVRs? Does anybody know why advertisers are afraid of DVRs when you can take control of when you watch TV? Because that's what it's all about. It's about control here, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Put it in the chat. Why do you think advertisers hate the fact that you can record a show and play it whenever you want? What do you guys think? Put it in the chat today. Talk to me. Talk back to me. Come to the stage. Let's talk about it. Raise your hand, come to the stage, and let's talk, or write it in the chat. Listen, I would love it if all of you just come to the stage today. Just raise your hand and just bring you up, even if you don't want to say anything. Okay, so a Facebook user says, because you don't have to watch the ads. You can actually skip the ads. This is somebody on Facebook, folks. And Roberto Johnson, who's watching us on YouTube, says skipping commercials. Skipping commercials. All right. And the reason why you want to take control of your mortgage or other loans is because you can skip the interest payments. And who's afraid of that? Who's afraid of that? And I'm telling you, it's not the banks. The banks aren't afraid of you skipping interest payments. When your mortgage company or bank sells you a mortgage, they're not afraid of you skipping interest payments. They're not, because they sold that mortgage to an investor or an investing group. Okay. They sold it to a hedge fund. They sold it to a group, a company formed for the express purpose of buying mortgage-backed securities. And two things that anyone who buys a mortgage, okay, if somebody is investing in mortgages, what are the two things they're most afraid of? When you listen, let me put this on the screen. Okay, because this is important, everybody. Share. So I'm going to share the screen here. And we got this. And we're going to put this over here. All right, and we're going to let's see, mortgage. Okay, let me see. What do we call prepayment? Okay, prepayment. We want to mortgage mortgage-backed securities. Okay, mortgage-backed securities and managing prepayment risk. Managing prepayment. All right, managing prepayment risk. All right, so let's go ahead and put this on the screen for you guys. If you're on Clubhouse right now, you want to see this. You want to see what we're getting ready to put up on our screen right now about mortgage-backed securities and what they are afraid of. They don't want you to take control of your finances. Okay, Kurt, let's go ahead and put that up. Did I do it right? Do I have it up there? Okay, there we go. So a mortgage-backed security is an investment secured by a collection of mortgages bought by the banks that issued them. Okay, so the banks issued these things, all right, and somebody bought them up. Mortgage-backed securities are bought and sold on the secondary market. When your bank gets your mortgage, it is then sold on the secondary market. And guess what? If your mortgage is with a major bank or major company that everybody knows, you can literally call the mortgage wing of your bank and ask them, who actually owns my mortgage right now? It may sound kind of strange. If your mortgage is at Chase, and you call Chase, and you would think Chase owns your mortgage because that's who you talk to. You talk to a Chase loan officer. But within days of you closing, Chase sold that on the secondary market, and that company may be paying Chase to collect the payments. Okay. Chase got paid a premium for your mortgage so that these people can collect your interest money. I want to show you something here. I got mortgage-backed securities here, and we're going to be managing the risk. All right. So I'm going to let me see here. Investors can manage Investors can manage prepayment risk by analyzing the prepayment behavior of the underlying loans, or MBS. Did you know there's a whole science behind trying to figure out how you're going to prepay your mortgage? And if prepayment didn't actually work, if what we were saying was not true, then why are the investors who buy the mortgage-backed securities? Listen, when you get into this thing, let me see if I can find some of the math. All right. Risk. Look here. The risk of mortgage-backed securities. Let me pull this one up. The risk of mortgage-backed securities. And listen, there's some serious math that goes on here when they're trying to figure this out. There's whole articles on it. I mean, it is a whole thing. All right. So that's from Investopedia. Let me see if I can find something else. The prepayment risk of mortgage-backed securities. Here's another one from the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City. All right. So they are afraid. Look at this. They are afraid that you will pay off your mortgage early, and they're trying to figure out how they can make their money when that's a whole article there. All right. The significance of prepayment risk. Let's read this for just a second. Prepayments make mortgage pass-throughs less attractive investments than treasury securities in 3 ways. First, changes in prepayments in response to interest rate movements reduce capital gains and increase the capital losses accruing to MBS, that's mortgage-backed security investments. Second, prepayments accelerate the cash flows from an MBS when reinvestment opportunities for these cash flows offer low returns, and decelerate the cash flows from an MBS when reinvestment opportunities offer high returns. Third, prepayments make the cash flows from an MBS unpredictable compared with the cash flows from treasury security. All right. So there are people out there that are saying right now, if you know a real estate investor worth their salt, okay? And some of them are out there. In fact, I got invited to go to California. All right. Let me see. What was this guy's name? What is this guy's name? Let me see if I can find his name here. Let me see about. All right. Let me see here. Pull this up and go to my messages. All right. So let me see. I can't think of the guy's name. I can't find it. But anyway, we got invited to California. And he's saying no one should pay off their mortgage or prepay their mortgage because the interest savings aren't all that much. They should take that money and invest it somewhere else at maybe 8-9%. That's what he's saying. Okay. His name is Stan Ellis. Stan Ellis invited me to California and said, Don, why don't you come to California? There's a conference going on, and maybe we can chat it up a bit. All right. But he came in and said that what I was talking about was like fuzzy math. It's not real math. It's not real. When the truth of the matter is, wherever you look, whatever you study, in fact, we actually put it in chat. The open AI, we put it in AI, the chat GPT, we put it in there and asked the question, is the study of amortization, or how amortizing loans actually work, all right, from the basics, is that being taught anywhere at any level of financial education? And the chat GPT came back and said that even at the university level, amortization is not being taught. Now, why is that? Now, I need you guys to think about it for a second. Start inviting some other people in here. Start inviting people in, and then ask yourself, have you ever been taught how a mortgage actually works? Think about it. Did you ever get it in class? Have you ever read a book on it? A magazine article? How does amortization actually work, and how does it affect you? And we have people who are supposedly expert in finance saying, don't pay off your mortgage early. Take all of the money and invest it. That's what they're saying. All right. So I got Dave Diamond in here. Let's pull him up. All right. Let's see. Invite to speak. All right. We had a little fun this morning because there's a guy named Dave D. That says that what I'm talking about, we shouldn't be paying off mortgages. We should be investing. Dave Diamond, what's going on, man?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning. All right. So Yolanda sells Michigan. So she's watching us on Facebook. She says this is about to be good. All right. So Dave, you got some background noise, man.
Yeah. I just got in the car, go on mute.
Okay. All right. So listen, folks. Here's what we're saying. All right. So we had the other day we were in Sean, I Kept It Real. All right. Sean Ackerman's room. All right. And Sean was kind enough to ask me to introduce myself. And we appreciate Sean and everything that Sean Ackerman is doing to promote education in finance and real estate. I mean, this brother has got it down. All right. So he's asked me to introduce myself and tell him what we were doing. And so when I did that, there were people in the writing in the comment section that the math was flawed, that this isn't correct, that people shouldn't be doing this. And when people like me say what I say, it makes them angry. Okay, because what they should be doing is investing. And then let me tell you right now. Let me tell you right now, everybody. I believe if you're a real estate investor, you should be taking some of the money, even most of the money that you're bringing in from rents, and reinvesting that money. I am not saying don't do that. I think you should do that. I'm in total agreement. You see, when people take a snippet of what you say and then try to make a big thing out of it, it can cause people to misunderstand what's going on. So here's what I'm saying: invest what you need to invest. All right. When you're investing what you need to invest, then when you're doing that, I'm gonna bring something else up here while I'm doing this. There's a certain point at which you do not want all of your eggs in one basket. Have you guys ever heard of that? Not putting all your eggs in one basket. Okay. If you are in the audience and you want to start asking questions about this, let's do that. If you're a real estate investor, you should invest, but you should start paying attention to how much interest you're paying on these loans and what you could do about it. Okay. How much interest you're paying on these loans and what you can do about it. Let me bring something else up here on my screen. All right. So we're going to bring this up over here. We're going to move this over to here. I'm going to share with you something from a real estate investor's side of things. All right. And let me see here. Recent. Okay. Storage, all of your files. All right. What is going on with my, oh, I need to close this out. Okay, good. Let me bring this up. We're going to put this on the screen so you guys can see something here. All right. Let me search for him. All right. All right, and then we're going to bring that up. Search. And I'm going to show you something here. And then we're going to start telling the truth about what's really going on. All right. So we are looking for, close this up. I'm looking for a situation where a commercial example. Okay, that's it. Let's bring this up. Okay, I'm going to bring this over so you guys can see this. And then you tell me, I'm going to show you a little bit about something. This is a real estate investor, and this is somebody who's proven. He's right here in Huntsville, Alabama, right here in Huntsville. Okay, and he read my book, and then he called me. All right, somebody on YouTube is saying if the bank sets up mortgage payment, which is scheduled twice a year, how does P.I.L.L method apply? I'm from Canada. Okay, so yeah, well, because the Canadian mortgage is calculated semi-annually, Canadians pay less interest than Americans. So you're going to pay less interest. That's number one. But the amortization schedule is the same as it is here. And what I'm getting ready to show you, Sammy, is how you can avoid paying the interest, how you can avoid paying interest. Just like if you had a DVR, you can avoid watching commercials. And if avoiding interest wasn't a real thing, then there wouldn't be so many articles on how to mitigate prepayment risk for people who invest in mortgage-backed securities. So here is this is a gentleman who has $2 million in properties, $2 million in loans right now. Okay, $2,236,376. Okay, and he's bringing in over $57,000 a month in rents on these two commercial buildings. William, how are you doing, sir? I got Yolanda in here. All right, folks, listen, this is good. This is good. If you're in here and you want to see these numbers, go to YouTube, search P.I.L.L method, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Because I'm saying you should take control. Real estate, I've got some real estate investors are challenging that, saying don't pay off a 7% mortgage or don't pay off a 6% mortgage when you can make 16%. Okay, it's old thinking. And it's based on the fact that 16% compounded interest is the same kind of calculation as a 6% amortized loan. Let me get this very clear right now. Your mortgage is not compound interest. Your mortgage is amortized interest, which is way more powerful for the banks. Your mortgage is amortized interest. It's different from compound interest. So anybody who says that they're an expert and they call the interest from a mortgage compound interest, they don't know what they're talking about, because it's not. Compound interest means you pay interest. You have an investment and they pay you interest. That interest becomes part of the principal. And then when they do the interest calculation again, now they have the principal, the original principal, plus the added interest, which becomes more principal. And you start to pay interest on your interest. That's compounding interest. When over the years you start paying interest on your interest, it's very powerful. Very powerful, by the way. And I'm saying all real estate investors should take advantage of that. But some real estate investors are saying you should only take advantage of that and not take advantage of interest savings. Now watch this. So he's got $57,000 coming in. His mortgage payments come to $14,696. Ooh, my goodness. How would you like it, William? If you had two buildings here in Huntsville, Alabama, commercial buildings, and the rents on those commercial buildings were bringing in $57,800 a month, and your mortgage payments were only $14,696. So this is what he told me. He says about 63% of that money that's coming in, or $36,600, I can't touch. He's read my book, but he doesn't want to use that money in saving interest. He says, I want to take that money and reinvest it. Does this make sense to you guys? Of course it does. All right. He wants to take that money he's making and he wants to reinvest it right away. So he's not going to use any part of that $36,000 a month. Whew. Let's do the math on that. All right. Let me bring this up. Okay. $36,000 a month. Okay, this is the first time I've done this. Times 12 equals $432,000 a year going into reinvesting to buy more properties. Wow, that's huge. I love it. Don't you? All right. And so I am saying, I'm going on record right now. I'm saying don't touch a dime of that. Do what you do, investor, because you're much better at it than I am. But when he read my book, he says, how can I employ these principles if I'm taking most of the money and I'm reinvesting it? And I said, now, do you see this amount here? This $6,500 here. That is the amount of money, about 11% of his income from the rents. He's putting in a fund so that he can do repairs and maintenance. It's cash sitting in the bank. And I said, well, take a look at this. How much money do you have in that account? He says it's over $100,000. Over $100,000. Listen, I've got some real estate people in here and they're sitting in the audience. All of you guys, you need to be sitting on the stage. Raise your hand, come to the stage right now and enter into the conversation. Don't stay down there. And Dave, if you've got a question, you jump in at any time. Okay. All right. All right. So anyway, here's what we're doing. He's putting $6,000 away and he's got $100,000 in the bank. I said, could you use some of that money? I said, well, it's just sitting there. Well, let me show you something on just one of his loans. I'm going to bring up an amortization schedule. All right. And we're going to show you one of his loans. All right. We're going to bring up this amortization schedule. Go to Brett Whistle. Bring him up. Okay. And we're going to take a look. Let me bring up my notes over here, and we're going to take a look at that loan. Okay. All right. So in this loan, he's making a payment of $8,700, $8,704 a month. Okay. I'm going to take you all the way back to the beginning. It is a 300-month loan, 300 months. Okay. The interest rate is 5%, 5%. And we're going to take this back to the very beginning. So I'm taking the principal payment out. This is from Brett Whistle. Any of you can do this. BRETWHISSEL.net, brettwhistle.net. You can do this exercise on your own. All right. So I'm going to show the amortization schedule here. All right. And here's what's happening. The principal borrowed is $1,488,906.65. And how much interest does the bank want on this loan? The interest is $1,122,293.35. Those people who are pushing back are saying to this real estate investor, do not pay off this don't do anything because they're charging you 5%. Why pay off a 5% loan, Mr. Investor? That's what they would tell him, because this was the school he came up in until he read my book. All right. He read the book and said, the school that I've been in doesn't make sense anymore since I read the book. You're saying that I can take small amounts of money and save a ton of interest. I said, yeah. He says, show me. So we're looking at this loan. And remember, he was saying 5%. Okay. When you amortize this loan, it's not 5% anymore. He's not going to pay 5% of $1,488,000. So let me just ask you guys a question. The interest that the bank wants over 25 years is $1,122,000. Does that sound like that this number is 5% of this number? It's not. When you amortize the loan, it becomes this. Total interest paid of percentage of principal is 75.377%. When an investor buys this mortgage, that's what the investor is looking at. Okay. So Yolanda Sales Michigan says, Shiva says, come on up. All right. Yolanda, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. And when you get up here, I'm going to moderate you so you can help me stay abreast of what's happening. All right. So we're going to give you a moderator badge because, I'm sorry. Come back up. I've hit the wrong button. Doggone it. Let me bring you back up. Invite to speak. Sorry, my fault. There you are. And make moderator. Okay, there you are. So Yolanda, how are you doing this morning?
I am well done. Very, very well. And it's so apropos. It's funny on these clubhouse streets, you just stumble in rooms and you get a little tea. And I was actually in that room the other night, a part of a room. I don't know if it was the room or a room.
Yes.
But yes, and they didn't mention your name, but it certainly came up about it did come up about, the whole prepay. And, I'm a big fan of the idea of, in fact, I went and ran some numbers in an amortization schedule just to see. And $140,000 over the course of a $30,000 loan was very enticing for me. But as a new soon to be investor, Ellis and Dave D, who were talking about this, who I am very fond of on this app, were saying that instead of paying those extra payments, hold on to that cash, for whatever economic reasons. And what it really showed me, Don, is that I'm not an economics major. I'm not a finance major. And so I don't know if having the money today is in my hand is better than saving $140,000 over a 30-year loan.
So here,
so
we're going to talk
yeah.
about that, Yolanda. So when they were talking about it, because I didn't happen to hear that, okay? But when they were talking about, when Stan Ellis and Dave D were talking about that, did they show any numbers to prove what their idea is correct? Did they show any numbers?
No, sir.
No, sir. So they're trying to disprove what I'm saying with absolutely no proof on their own.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even there, okay? Because I wasn't in the room that you were in, okay? But here's what I'm saying. 5% ain't 5% when it comes to this loan, okay? Now take a look at this. When you get a mortgage, ladies and gentlemen, here's what's happening. The bank owns your property, and you're buying your property back a little bit at a time. You're buying it back from them because they loaned you the money. All right. Now, here's the other thing. If I believed the way they say I believe, and what I'm teaching is that you shouldn't pay off, that you should save money by paying off your mortgage by prepayment, then if you take that argument to its most logical conclusion, then you would say you should pay cash for your property. I would be teaching you should pay cash, and I don't. Never pay cash for an investment property. Never pay cash for your house. Never pay cash for a car, because you can invest that money and make more with it. You can invest that money and make more with it. Don't pay cash for anything. Borrow that money at a discount. So here's what I'm saying. You can borrow money at a discount, so you're not paying all of that money to the bank. So this real estate investor has now, the bank has loaned him $1,488,900 to buy a building. And now he's buying it back from the bank, or the investor that has the loan now. He's buying it back from them a little piece at a time. On that very first payment, he bought back $2,500.22 of his building. He now owns that much of it, okay? Because the bank owes the rest. Here's what I'm talking about. Here's what the bank is charging him for that. $6,203.78 in interest to buy back a small piece of his property, $2,500. You tell me, ladies and gentlemen, is $6,000 too much to pay just to buy back $2,500 of your own doggone building? I'm just saying. Okay? And there's something that you can do about it. Now, Mr. Dave D was saying, why would you pay? What you're doing is you're paying extra. No, I'm not paying extra. I'm paying back what I owe, but I'm just taking control of when I pay it back. Okay? Because if this guy owes $1,488,000, he wants to pay back his $1,488,000, but he wants to pay as little of this $1 million in interest. Why should he do that when he doesn't have to? You have to understand how a loan actually works. So while they're taking that money and trying to invest it, all right, when somebody tells you they're going to do an investment, is the amount of money that they are wanting to make, is that a guarantee? Yolanda, Dave, if I want to make 16% cash on cash return, is that a guarantee?
No.
No. And if I do make that money, if I do make some money in my investment, do I have to pay taxes on it?
Most times, yes.
Okay. So the money that I make, I don't get to keep all of it because I got to pay taxes on it. So let me show you what's really going on here. When you prepay, I'm just giving you just a small example. When I make this mortgage payment of $8,704 in the first month, $6,200 of it goes to interest. But I can take a look at the principal payment for line two, $2,510.64. For me to purchase that back from the bank, it's going to cost me if I wait till the next month. Let's say I start the whole thing in January, and this is February's payment. And in February, I'm going to buy back from the bank $2,510.64 of my building. I'm going to buy that back, but they want to charge me $6,193.36. All right. Ron Williams says, "Hey, Don, good to see Ron Williams. Oh my goodness. I haven't seen you in forever. All right. Tell your lovely wife I said hello." Okay. Is this my pastor, Ron Williams? Okay. Because I can't tell from the picture. If it is, please say so. Okay. Anyway, folks, here's what we're saying. Watch this. When we pay this very first mortgage payment here. Okay, yes, that's my former pastor, you all. Pastor Ron Williams. All right, thank you for being here, my brother. So here's what we're saying, ladies and gentlemen. If you pay this mortgage payment in January, and you can look at February's principal payment, all right? Did you know if you take control of this principal payment, just like you control your DVR, you're controlling when you watch. And you can cut out the commercials, all right, on your DVR. Watch this. You're taking control of how you pay the bank back. You do not, and I can't stress this enough. You do not have to follow their program in paying back the loan. If you follow their program, it's the most inefficient way to use your money on the planet. It is by far. So take control. Give the bank their money in a way that makes it impossible for them to charge you interest. So we're in January paying this, and I'm just picking this number out. This is not the P.I.L.L method. This is just understanding how amortization works. And I'm looking at February's principal payment as $2,510.64, but we're still in January. Here's my question, everybody. Do I have to wait till February to give the bank this $2,500? Do I have to wait till February to do that? Put it in the chat. Put it in your comment section. Do I have to wait to give the bank additional money? All right. And people are saying, no, because, we're live on Clubhouse and we're live on social media. So you don't have to wait. But if you had it in the bank, could you prepay this ahead of time? If you did, all of that money goes to principal. You're paid down to line 2 on your amortization schedule. All right. Because they have to subtract that money. You gave it to them, but you gave it to them early. You gave it to them in your time. All right. You took control. You gave it to them in your time. So now you're paid down to $1,483,000, line 2 on your amortization schedule. So when the bank's computer sees this number, they have to calculate your interest on this number. All right. And I'm going to show you how they do it. I'm going to bring up a calculator. We're going to put in .05. That's the interest rate. We're going to divide that number by 12. And we're going to get 0.00416, a bunch of sixes and a 7 at the end. That's what we get. This is the number that the bank is using to multiply by the new principal balance to get next month's interest payment. So let's find out. So we're going to multiply this. Remember, they're on line 2 now. They're no longer on line 1. They made their January payment. They gave February's principal payment early. So now they're paid down to line 2. So we're going to take this number and multiply it by the $1,483,895.79. equals $6,182.90 because they have to round that up. Okay. So let's take a look at the interest payment here. Oh, you know what? This is a different calculation. I did it for 30. I did it on a 30-year calculation. But if you take a look at this, you see it's almost this number here. All right. All right. 6,182.90. Look at that. 6,182.90. That brings you down to line 3 on the schedule, doesn't it? This is the payment they're going to make. This one here, not this one here. What happened? See, 6,182.90 is the interest payment here. That's what they're going to pay. So what happened to the interest payment of 6,193.36? Because I paid the principal payment early, I collapsed the amortization schedule. Payment number 1 is now touching payment number 3. Payment number 2 is gone. I just saved $6,193.36. The real estate investors are trying to tell you that that's not what happens. So let me ask you this, everybody. Okay. Let me ask you this, everybody. If this gentleman paid his very first mortgage payment because he has enough money. I'm telling you, this guy has enough money. When I tell you he's got enough money, he's got enough money. He has enough money to pay this whole loan off tomorrow. What if he made the first payment on this and then paid the rest of what he owes, the $1,486,406.43? What if he stroked a check for that much money and gave it to the bank? What would happen to all the interest payments the bank was looking for? All these $6,000 and $5,000 interest payments. What would happen to all of those if he paid the loan off tomorrow? You tell me. Put it in the chat. Put it in the comment section. What would happen if they paid all the entire loan off? Can somebody tell me? Okay, come to this. Okay, what would happen?
They paid it off.
Yep.
They would owe no interest.
They would owe no interest. All those interest payments would disappear. So here's what I'm saying, folks. Pastor Ron Williams says the banks lose their income. That's exactly right. So, folks, if I can get rid of all of the interest payments, how come I can't get rid of some of them by understanding how an amortization schedule actually works? Watch this. Watch this. So if he pays his January payment, what if he does something like this? He gives the bank the next 3 principal payments, 2510, 2521, and 2531. He's got enough money. He can prepay just 3 of these. Then what happens to over $18,000 in interest? It goes up in smoke. The banks never get that. They never get that. This is why real estate investors are so scared that you'll find out what's going on, because they just bought your mortgage on the secondary market. They don't want you to understand what prepayment is like. It's not taught anywhere. It's not taught in school. What I'm teaching today, 8th graders pick it up because I had an opportunity to teach it to 8th graders. And guess what? I got a standing ovation from 8th graders, and they were clamoring for my book. I signed my book and I gave it to each and every one of them. When somebody asked me to come to Houston and talk to some 8th graders, and I did that. So here's what's happening. I need you to understand this. You're taking control of your loan. You're taking control of your loan. Now watch this. So this is what I told the real estate investor. He's got $100,000 in his bank account over here to do repairs and maintenance on all of his buildings. Okay. He takes 11% of his income and puts it in that fund, so it keeps that fund supplied, so he'll never be short of cash to do repairs and maintenance on his buildings. But most of his money he's putting into reinvestment. So I said, looking at this loan, let's take a look at cumulative principal. If he were to pay this loan down the way the bank wants him to every month on time, this is how much principal he pays down in 1 year. $30,699. That's how much principal he pays down in 1 year. Look how much interest he pays. $73,748.14. You tell me, do you think that that's worth? I mean, this is how much of his building he bought back. He bought back $30,000 of his building, but the bank wants him to pay $73,000. Folks, that's $104,000 of the money that his tenants gave him. And out of $104,000, he's able to keep $30,699. And the real estate investor that bought that mortgage as part of a package of mortgage-backed securities just made 73 grand. Wow. Eric Toombs is saying, would he eliminate all those interest payments? He most certainly would, Eric. He would most certainly. Look what, here's what I'm asking you. Prepay this. If you prepay that, okay, you give the bank the $30,000 they're looking for. Could you give it to them in 12 monthly installments? But if you had it, could you give it to them on line one? Let's find out. Let's find out. We're going to put into the calculator 1,488,906.65. This is all the principal payments added up. All these principal payments added up come to $30,699.86. You can give this to the bank over 12 payments, or you can give it to them in one. So let's give it to them in one. So we're going to subtract that. 30,000, subtract 30,699.86 equals 1,458,206.79. It is the exact same number I see right here. They can go from payment number 1 down to payment number 12 on their amortization schedule in 1 month. If they do that, is he taking control? If he did this, would he take control of paying back the money that he owes when he wants to pay it back and not when the bank is telling him to pay it back? If he takes control, all the interest payments between line 2 and line 12 are gone. It's it's right around $67,600 in interest he just saved to pay his loan down to the very same place the bank wanted him to pay it down to, and pay them 73 grand to do it, because no one ever taught him how to understand an amortization schedule. Pastor Ron Williams, let's highlight it, Kirk Nugent. It says, Don, I get your point clearly, and it makes total sense. However, would the investor in your scenario lose his tax write-off amount if the loan is paid off? Pastor, you are exactly right. They would. So here's the thing for all of you who are looking for and counting on that tax write-off. Okay. Let me put it to you this way. When I do a seminar, I usually keep $1, and so I can put it in one hand and 27 cents in the other, or 27 or 30 cents. So what happens when you pay your mortgage interest? When you do your taxes, for every dollar, you're going to get a portion of that money back to take off your taxes. So you got to pay $1 in interest to the bank to get 27 to 30 cents for every dollar you paid back from the government, so they can reduce your tax liability. Now, what I'm talking about is this. If this real estate investor were to give this to the bank, all right, save $73,000 in interest, then his next mortgage payment for February is on line 13. He still has a mortgage payment every single month. you're not skipping out on that. So instead of 300 payments, I'm going to show him how to pay a lot fewer payments. But every year he has this mortgage, if he qualifies for that tax write-off, he'll get it. Okay? So if he pays off the mortgage early, then he no longer gets the tax write-off. And here's what happens. He no longer has to pay the dollar in interest to be able to get the 30 cents back from the government. He can now take that dollar and invest it any way he chooses to make a lot more money than the 30 cents he would get back from the government. Does that make sense, Pastor? Okay. Yami, what do you got, man? Okay. So, there are a lot of accountants that still believe that. All right. So here's what I'm saying. Should you keep a loan for 30 years just to get the tax write-off, or you can get the tax write-off every year for 7 years, pay it off, pay the loan off, and then take that money you would have paid in interest and invest it in your family. Now, so here's what happens. He says, I get it. All right. He says, so he gets it. So here's what's happening. I need you all to take a look at the amount of interest that's being done here, that's being shown here. This is how much interest that bank wants this guy to pay. In the first year, $73,000. Over 2 years, $145,000. Over 3 years, $216,000. Over 4 years, $285,000. Look how much the real estate investors are getting the bank is getting if we ignore what we're teaching here today. Okay. Now, these are big numbers, and sometimes we can't wrap our head around the big numbers. Okay. So here's what I told this guy, and we're going to get off this subject. If you take about $30,000 out of your bank account, okay, in that bank account is making about 0.1%. That's how much money in interest he's getting by keeping that money in the bank, because he keeps some cash available to do repairs on his buildings. So I'm saying take $30,000 out of that bank account and apply it to this loan and pay your loan down to here, not for $73,000 in interest, but for only $6,203.78 in interest on the first line. And your next mortgage payment for February will be on line 13 of your schedule. Does everybody get that? Is everybody seeing that? Okay. So he has a payment the next month. It's just not payment number 2. It's payment number 13. All right. So now he's taken $30,000 out of his reserve fund. Should he take another $30,000 out? No. So if he's putting about $6,000 a month in that reserve fund, okay, then how long would it take him to put his $30,000 back in the reserve fund? How long would it take? Okay, I took out $30,000. I'm putting in $6,000 a month. How long will it take me to put my $30,000 back in the reserve fund? Anybody? Put it in the chat. Come up. Say something.
Hey, Don.
Yes, sir.
You are taking us to church today, brother.
Okay, Yeti.
I just had to come from the back of the church, raise my hand so I could sit on the pastor's row in the front.
Okay. All right.
Listen, man, it's all relative. Whether it's big numbers, small numbers, heck, move the decimal to make it relevant to where you are. The numbers don't lie. And you praise God for you, brother.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you. So, folks, let's say this is all he's doing. He's going to put that money back. It's going to take him 5 months to put that money back. So in the 5 months he's putting the money back, he's just going to make his regular mortgage payment on line 13. That's 1. 4. That's 2. That's 3. That's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. He's going to make 5 regular payments. Now he has his $30,000 back in his bank account. All right. He's made 5 regular payments. Here's my question to him. I said, could you take that 30 grand out and do it again? Knock off another year off this mortgage, another about 11 or 12 months, and save another $67,000 or $65,000 in interest. So if he did that, let's say he would talk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's say he only gets down to line 28. Okay, look at that. So in 5 months, he could be here on his schedule instead of here on his schedule. This is what the people who are pushing back are saying, that Don doesn't know what he's talking about when I'm saying you could do this. Now, some of you are old enough to remember when your parents paid off the mortgage. I mean, years ago, your parents paid off a mortgage and their interest rates were 12 and 18%. I'm going to show you right now how your parents or your grandparents paid off their mortgage when the interest rate was a humongous 12 and 18%. And when I show you, I want you to tell me how they did it. I'm putting it on the screen right now. So we're going to put another amortization schedule on the screen. All right, duplicate this tab. We're going to take all this information out. We're only going to put $70,000 in, okay? Because that's what mortgages were back then, 70,000. We're going to put it in at 12% interest for 360 months. That's 30 years. Here's the payment. Now, people are shuddering and said, my goodness, 12% interest rates were that high. Do your research, 12 to 18%. Here's the payment, $756.95, okay? 12% interest. Uh-oh, I did it. I'm supposed to have 360 payments. So let's do that again. Sorry. One more time. Here it is, folks. And I want you guys to run me through this. Anybody on stage or online. All right. I want you to take a look at this. 12% interest on $70,000. Here's the breakdown in the summary. When you go to close, here's what the bank wants. You're borrowing $70,000, folks, but at 12% interest, we want $189,210.80. Tell me, ladies and gentlemen, can you make 12% do this? No, you cannot. This only happens in amortization when they take 1/12 of the interest rate and multiply it by the unpaid balance 360 times. So they're going to take this balance and multiply it by 1/12 of the interest rate to get the interest here. And look how much money is going to principal. I need you all to see this. Your parents had loans, or your grandparents had loans that look just like this. $700 going to interest, only $20 going to principal. Are you all seeing this? Are you all getting this? Now, I want you all to tell me how your parents and your grandparents paid off a mortgage that's looking like this, where only $20 out of their payment went to principal. And that's in year 1. In year 2, $25 goes to principal. Year 3, listen, it doesn't even get up to $30 going to principal till you're 4 years into this loan. How did they pay it off early? How did they pay that loan off early? Can anybody tell me? Because you've seen what happens when you prepay. Here's what I'm saying. All right, who's opening their mic?
That was me, Don. I was going to say perhaps a refi.
Absolutely not. They didn't do that. Guess what they did? They didn't get out of the 12% loan. Here's what happens. If what I'm saying is true, and it is, if they make January's payment here and they prepay $20.23, does that eliminate line two's interest, and are they on line three of their mortgage? Come on, everybody. Is that what's happening here? That's what Yemi said. Look at that. I need you all to see this. The real estate investors are saying, why pay off this money? Take your extra money and put it in some sort of investment and just keep making minimum payments on your loan. In 1 year, if your parents and grandparents had listened to that, in 1 year, they pay this loan down by only $254.03, but they give the bank $8,386.33 in interest. That's what's happening here. But if somehow they worked a little bit extra, they got some overtime, what if they could come up with $254? $254. That's all the principal payments added up. And they prepaid it, they would be down to here in 1 month. $254 knocks out 12 mortgage payments, and their next mortgage payment is actually on line 13 of their amortization schedule. So, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I need you to know about amortization. Don't be afraid of these higher interest rates, because here's what the experts are telling you. Go ahead and get that loan. If you can afford the house at 7.75, then when the rates drop to 5%, refinance out of that and get your 5% loan. I'm telling you today, when you refinance to the lower interest rate because of amortization, you actually make it harder to pay the loan off faster, because you increase the principal payment. I got these tiny principal payments, and I need you to write this down. Control the principal payment and you control the loan. Control the principal payments and you control the loan. And the interest payments you skip don't matter. The interest payments you skip don't matter. So if I can make my mortgage payment here, and I can come up with just an extra $40, an extra $40 on this loan, saves me almost $1,400 in interest. I give them the $20.23 and the $20.43. It knocks out nearly $1,400 in interest I never have to pay, and all I invested in this thing was $40. I need you to see something about investing right now. So Ron Williams has a question here. He says, let's highlight it for him, Kurt. It says, Don, does this process work with credit cards and student loans too? Oh, Pastor, listen, I'm here in Huntsville, Alabama. And a young man graduating from Oakwood. I went in to talk to some students at Edwards Hall a few years ago. And this guy calls me up afterwards because he remembered the presentation. He's got a job. He's got a car. And he was fortunate enough to only have $9,500 in student loans. $9,500 in student loans. On this program, Pastor, student loans pay off in an average of 5 to 7 years. That's it. When you understand how much interest you could avoid, let me show you what this young man was looking at as a student. As a brand new person going into the workforce with a student loan of $9,500, all right? His interest rate was 6%, okay? And his payment, he got an income-based payment of $50, okay? Now, I need you all to guess, how long would it take for this student to pay off $9,500 at 6% when his income-based payment was $50 a month? So he asked me, Mr. Daniel, how do I want to be able to pay off my car and my student loan? How can I do that? I said, do you have any idea based on this $50 a month, how long it's going to take you to pay this off? He says, no, that $50 a month is comfortable. I can pay that. Okay. And that's what I was looking at. So he was going to do that for a while, but I showed him what would happen. I'm going to calculate this and I want to show you what is happening to students all over this country when it comes to these student loans. Watch this. It's going to take 601 payments. Folks, you scroll down here, that's over 50 years. They wanted this young man to take 50 years to pay off $9,500. I want to show you what his amortization schedule looks like. And this is what the real estate, and this is what these people that are pushing back against the P.I.L.L method says. Listen, just pay the minimum, take your money and invest it somewhere else. Take the proceeds from the investment and pay the loan off. I'm going to show you why it's not either or. You should invest, but you should save interest as well. You have to do both. And with our program, we will help you to find the sweet spot. How much goes to principal and how much goes to debt reduction and how much of your money should go to wealth creation. We have a cloud-based AI computing system that does all of the math. And we have people on staff that answer the phones 5 days a week, 8 hours a day from the United States. When you call the P.I.L.L method, okay, and you're a client and you have a question, you call that 800 number, somebody answers that phone from the US and answers your question. You have support. Okay, you have a coach that's going to coach you and say, take a look at this thing. The coach is going to call you once every 2 weeks or so and to keep you on track. Look at this student's payment. He did not realize out of his $50 a month, only $2.50 was going to principal and $47.50 was going to interest. Isn't this a crime? Isn't this a crime that we're not teaching our students how loans work? So they would take an income-based payment like this because it's comfortable and not know how they could take advantage of it before it takes advantage of them. Based on what you've learned, everybody, based on what you've learned, what could this student do to this loan? I mean, could this student destroy this loan if he listened to what we're getting here today? Look at this. If he paid an extra $2.51, that would save him $47.49. Let me show you the math, the return on investment. Do you believe that a penny saved is a penny earned? A penny saved is a penny earned. Do you believe that today? Okay, let me put this on the screen. If he can save the $47.49, $47.49, okay, and divide it by what he prepaid, the $2.51. This is how much he invested in his own loan, an extra $2.51. Divided by $2.51. Move the decimal point 2 places. Do you realize that's a 1,892% return on your money? That's money I didn't have to pay. That's money I didn't have to pay. So what the investor says, that's not money I have in my hand. Lord have mercy. Yeah, it's not money you have in your hand. It's money you didn't have to pay. You take control of the loan. Why should this student, because he's listening to you, why should this student continue this game and only pay $30.84 towards his loan and give the bank $569 of his hard-earned money in interest just in the first year of this student loan, when he could make that $50 payment and give the bank an extra $30, and wipe 1 year off his loan? an extra $30 wipes 1 year off this loan, and his next loan payment is on line 13 of his schedule. That's what an extra $30 would do. Pastor, what would an extra $63 do? Would it knock 2 years off? Pastor, listen, I have such a good time doing this. If he put an extra $100 on his loan, it would knock 3 years off the loan and save him over $1,600 in interest. This is what understanding an amortization schedule will actually do. And listen, folks, I'm proud to say that as a Seventh-day Adventist Christian, I believe in tithing, and I believe in paying offering, and focusing on the 10%, making sure that God gets his 10%, okay, and a liberal offering. We spend a lot of time on the 10%. We should spend an equal amount of time on how to manage the 90%. That's what we should be doing. And when we do can you imagine how many of our churches can be out of debt in 5 to 7 years? Let me show you all something. Because there are churches out there with $1 million worth of debt on them. $1 million worth of debt on them. Let me give you back this. Let me just go back here. Let me show you something. What if we had a church that had this mortgage, $1,488,000? Do you know that there are churches out there that are fortunate enough to have a healthy reserve fund, and because of their fiscal responsibility, they're able to, on a regular basis, to put money in that reserve fund so that they could take care of the air conditioner if it breaks down, or something, do some maintenance on the building. So the congregation won't be out in the cold or in the heat. They can fix things when it needs to be fixed. They have a reserve fund, and it's sitting there. Pastor, you tell me if this doesn't make sense. Tell me if this doesn't make sense. We got a reserve fund of $100,000. A reserve fund of $100,000 on this building. Could we take 30? Well, not 30 grand. Let's say 10 grand. If we take 10 grand out of the reserve fund, apply it to the mortgage, it knocks 4 months off this mortgage and saves $18,000 in interest of the Lord's money. Come on, 18 grand if we did that. What if by finding by looking at the finances, we already know how many giving units we have at the church. We already know how many giving units we have at the church. We know what the tithe base is. We know what the offering base is. We know how much money is going into the reserve fund on a regular basis. Could we find a way to figure out how we can leverage the reserve fund, pay a little bit towards the mortgage, all right, knock months off and interest off, and then wait till we build it back up and then do it again. Wait till we build it back up and do it again. Did you realize that with the regular giving, a church can be paid off in 5 to 7 years without asking for an extra dime from the members? What? Yes, because we understand how an amortization schedule works. Listen, this is a very tool that we're using to purchase the church, and we know nothing about it. Not even the most seasoned accountants that we've employed to be the treasurer of the church, not because they weren't paying attention in class, because there was no class on this. You ask them, have they ever had a class on amortization? Why is this being left out of our financial education, everybody? And that's why there's so much pushback against it, because it seems too good to be true. Why isn't anybody talking about this? And I'm going to end. I'm going to. We're an hour and a half into the show. An hour and a half into the show, and I want to make sure that we get to something that's very important. All right. I had an opportunity, okay, to talk to somebody. Well, the other day I was listening to somebody. Okay, we'll open up this tab, and we're going to go to Brett Whistle here. All right, here it is. Real estate investor, $206,000. This is a real estate investor, $206,000. Interest rate 7.75%. 7.75. And this is his payment. This is a fourplex, which means this building has 4 rental units in it. He's renting it out at $1,800 a unit. $1,800 a unit. Here's his mortgage payment is $1,475.81. He's making money on this. Now, the people who are pushing back against what I'm teaching, they're saying that this real estate investor should take every single dime that he's bringing in and put it into an investment, because it doesn't make sense to do anything to pay off a 7% loan when you can make 16 to 20% by investing. Let me take a look at this. So what I'm saying is you should have a healthy combination of both investments and interest cancellation. So here is the money that the tenants are giving them, right? That's $1,800. I'm putting it on the screen. $1,800 times 4 equals $7,200. This landlord is bringing in $7,200. His mortgage payment is $1,475.81. The real estate investors are saying, after you put some money aside for repairs and maintenance, you should take all of your money and reinvest it. Don't take any of the money. Don't take any of the money to save money on interest. Don't take control of your own loan. I'm saying take control of your own loan, folks, because look at this beautiful loan. $145.39 going to principal and $1,300 goes to interest. Look at that tiny principal payment and what you could do. Okay. Just take a look at the year one. $1,800 goes to principal and $15,901.66. This is the very example I showed the other day that got so much pushback. Okay. Because they're saying what I'm talking about doesn't really happen. And here's what I'm asking you, folks. If I make the mortgage payment like the mortgage company wants me to, this is how I'm paying it every single month. Look at this. 145, 146, 147 goes to principal. Look at this, 1330, 1329, 1328, they go to interest. At the end of 1 year, will I pay this loan down by adding up all the principal payments? Will I pay it down by $1,808? Answer is yes. Will I pay the bank $15,901.66? The answer is yes. So is that current day? Is that current? Am I in 1 year? Will I pay them that? Because here's what I'm buying. I'm buying $1,800 worth of my building back. And the bank is charging $15,901.66 to buy. Sorry. Gotta get this off my screen. To buy $1,800 of my building back. This is how much interest they want to charge me. I'm telling the real estate investor, what if you had a program that says, here's how much you should pay to optimize your money and we'll help you to organize and everything and figure out what you could pay to invest. Invest most of your money, but use some of your money to take control of this loan and stop letting the bank control you. So if you want to know more about that, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to know more about how that works, okay, get a savings and earnings report so you can know the month, day, and year you could be debt free, and you get it for free. Go to ice10k.com. That is my digital business card, ice10k.com, so that you can get more information about this and get a savings and earnings report for free. I'm putting it at the top of the page in Clubhouse. ICE, the number 10, the letter K.com, ice10k.com. All right. When you get this, you're going to see at the top of that digital business card is Dr. Eric Thomas, E.T., the hip hop preacher, who said he used the P.I.L.L. method to pay off his mortgage early, made his wife feel so much better. I'm going to play that video at the end of our show today. Okay, that's Dr. Eric Thomas, the number one motivational speaker in the entire world, says he uses the P.I.L.L. method. So we got real estate investors are saying this, and we want people to know the truth. So get a savings and earnings report. All right. Know the month, day, and year you could be debt free and how much interest you can save. But when you're getting that, when you're filling out your request, make sure when you put your cell phone number in, don't leave any spaces. Make sure there's no spaces at all, no dots, no dashes, no spaces at all when you're putting your cell phone number in, so that when you verify it, we can send you a code to prove that you're not a robot trying to get into the system. So when you get that code back as a text message, put that code into the website and then click that button that says, yes, I want to save, fill out the financial information, and then you can know the month, day, and year you could be debt free and how much interest you can save. And then we will help you to guard against putting too much money into debt reduction and then take the rest of that money and put it into wealth creation early, because we're going to manage all of your entire budget. We're going to track your budget. We're going to find out how much money you're making and how much money you're actually spending to live. And then we're going to tell you, you really should have a budget for your family to have some fun. Dave Ramsey will say, no, it's not time to have fun. It's not time to have fun. It's time to take all of that money and put it towards the debt. No, have some fun, have it in your budget. And any money that's left over, I will show you how to effectively use that money to cancel interest, because interest is the monster here. Not how much you borrowed, but on how much it costs to manage how much you borrow. That's the monster. We're going to help you to take control of the monster. Okay, kill that giant. All right, get your sling out, everybody. Let's kill that giant. All right, that's what we're talking about. Interest is a giant. Let's put the book up, Kurt. And this book is the only book on Amazon that talks about what we're talking about today, out of 33 million titles. Now, the book in itself is a miracle. Let me tell you, there's absolutely no reason for me to know what I know. I didn't graduate from college. I didn't have any finance classes. You see, what I do have is Asperger's. It's a mild form of autism. When I look at this amortization schedule that I was showing you, I see the pictures and the patterns. And the pictures and the patterns to me make absolutely no sense, because they cost us too much money. But if we just did it this way, it would save us money. I guess this is why it's hard for people to listen to me, because I don't have the degree. Everything that you're learning today is a gift from God. I did not sit down and try to figure this stuff out. I can take no credit for this. All I can do is share what has been impressed on my head when I take a look at this amortization schedule. Okay, so let's get back to let's get back to the screen, Kurt. Okay. And so we're going to take a look at what I'm telling this real estate investors to do. All right. We're going to put the amortization schedule back on, but get the book. Go ahead and get your free savings and earnings report. All right. Go ahead. So we have $1,800 in principal. All right, Kurt, let me get this back on. Let's get this back on so people can see. How do I do that? Okay. Let me see here. We want to bring this back. There we go. I just need to make it big. Okay. How do we make it big, Kurt? So people can see it. There we go. Kurt, the man. That's why I love having an engineer on what's happening. So here's what I'm saying. What if this real estate investor took control of this money? So here's what the people are saying they're pushing back. Don, you're paying extra. And you could take that extra. Why pay extra? I'm not paying extra. I owe the bank $206,000. I'm just taking control of how I pay them the money. How I pay them the money, $206,000. So if he decided he wanted to give the bank this $1,800 in interest and pay his loan down to line 12 in just 1 month and skip all the interest payments between line 2 and line 12, why shouldn't he? So I'm asking everybody who would push back against this, is there any reason that you can think of to buy back $1,800 of my building and pay $15,900 to get it when I could avoid paying $15,000 to get $1,800 of my building back? Can anybody give me a reason to do that? So Ron Williams says, thank you, says, bless you, brother. There's a bunch of people with degrees that are broke and living paycheck to paycheck. This makes total sense to me, and I thank God for your ministry. Pastor, thank you so very much. Okay? Because I remember when you were our pastor there in Niles, Michigan. So listen, folks, this is something that we need to understand. And I need you to, since we're talking about it, since there's a pastor in the room, do you know that sometimes pastors have to move quite often from, congregation to congregation, and they really don't get a chance to pay off a house? And even though they have a very nice retirement, do you realize that too many of our pastors and conference workers are going into that retirement in debt? What if it were possible to be in a position where you could be out of debt early and not have to make a choice between funding your retirement and funding your children's Christian education? You don't have to choose anymore, because we can eliminate that interest from these loans, and we could employ interest cancellation techniques so that over 90% of our conference workers can go into the retirement years debt free by just understanding how an amortization schedule actually works. Watch this, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to put $1,800 here and save over $14,000 in interest if he does that. So here's what people are saying who are pushing back. All right. People like Stan Ellis, who teaches this at the university level. All right. He's saying that the $14,000 saved is in the future, not now. Okay. So here's what I said to him. If I give my money to the bank, am I giving that money to the bank now? All of this interest, am I giving that? Is that money I'm spending now, or is that money I'm spending in the future? You tell me, ladies and gentlemen, these interest payments, is this money I'm spending now, or is this money I'm spending in the future? No, it's money I'm spending now. Money I'm spending now. If I give the bank $146.33 early, then is this $1,300.29 I don't have to pay? Is that money I'm saving now, or is that money I'm saving in the future? Does that make sense to you? He says, Don, you can't realize that money until you sell the house. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is I'm buying $146 of my property back, but I didn't have to give the bank $1,300 to do it. The total interest cost that the bank wants from me is $325,291.60. That's how much they want from me. I just reduced it by $1,300 that they'll never get from me because I gave them $146 early. Simon Steele says, yep, LOL. Simone Steele says, yep. Listen, folks, that's what we're talking about here. I understand. Here's what I understand. And I forget the writer. His name says, seek first to understand before wanting to be understood. And here's what I understand about financial experts, people who teach this on the university level, pushing back against this. Here's what I understand. This is what you were taught. And you've been teaching it for years. When somebody comes along and says the opposite, it is natural. It is natural to think you're going to have instant pushback because it's not lining up with your education. I get that. You know what I also get? I need you all to do the research on this guy. All right. A guy who did some research on ulcers. Okay. He says, well, everybody in the medical community was saying that ulcers are caused by stress. This guy in Australia is the only one. 2 people in the entire world were saying that ulcers are caused by a bacteria. Only 2 people in the entire world were saying that, when the rest of the medical community worldwide said they were crazy. How can bacteria live in stomach acid? Okay. So when you do the research, okay, bacteria causes ulcers. Okay, bacteria causes ulcers. All right. Here's what you'll find out. This is what these guys found out. Okay. Bacteria causes ulcers. Helicobacter or H. pylori, Helicobacter pylori, or causes ulcers. So what he did was, nobody was listening to him, and they wouldn't publish his papers. They laughed him to scorn. And okay, let me see here. Scientists, okay, the scientist that discovered, doctor that discovered. Let me see if I can find that. Okay, yeah, there he is. Barry Marshall and Robin Warren, 2 Australian researchers who discovered the bacterium Helicobacter pylori, and they discovered this back in the 70s, where people who would get to treat ulcers, it took surgery to treat their ulcers, and then their ulcers came back. Okay, so the entire medical community said that these 2 guys are crazy. Eventually, they got fed up. Dr. Barry Marshall mixed up some Helicobacter pylori in one of his beakers in his lab and drank it and gave himself an ulcer. And then they documented every single part of that, and he cured himself with what we now call Pepto-Bismol. Okay, some sort of bismuth. You look up the article. You can read the whole article yourself. Okay, I gave you enough information to find it. All right, so look it up. And they found this in the early 70s, and nobody believed him. But after a while, after he stuck with his guns, made himself sick and cured himself, and then documented it, They finally won a Nobel Prize for medicine in 2005. From the 70s, early 70s to 2005, finally getting recognized as doing something that helps people. So when people push back, do you think I'm going to give up? Oh, no, not giving up, not giving up at all, because this was given to me as a gift, and we freely receive, we should freely give. And we are dedicated to putting these shows out here so people can learn the truth about these loans. All right, folks, I've got about 12 minutes left in this class. Does anybody have any questions for me? So Simone Steele says, if I save myself $30,000 now or later, it's a win. It's a win. It's a win-win. Okay. Just think about it. It's a guaranteed win. The stock market is a chance or a gamble. Investing that money, all right, is a chance. All right. But if I prepay this $1,800, this is a guaranteed $14,500 I will not have to pay in interest. That's guaranteed. And I guarantee you don't have to pay taxes on that either. That's money you didn't have to spend to get the same thing. And that's all I'm saying here, ladies and gentlemen. If moving this loan from point A to point B, from 206,000 to 204,191, that's the thing. That's what I'm buying. That's the thing that I want. How much does it cost to get what I want? To move the loan from 206,000 to 204,191. Do I want to pay $15,901.66 to do it? Or could I move my loan from point A to point B for only $1,330? Listen, folks, that's a huge difference. No wonder the people who have been teaching this for years, it causes what's called cognitive dissonance. Look it up. Cognitive dissonance. And this is why we have to seek to understand before we seek to be understood. Of course, this is what they would think. If I was in their shoes, I would think the very same thing, because this is what I've been taught for years. And no one actually taught me how to read an amortization schedule. So am I angry? No. Am I passionate? Yes. Because everybody who wants to know should be able to know how to manage student loans, credit cards, car loans, and mortgages. All of these loans that carry interest, you can cut your interest costs by 75%. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to give you an example. Here's a guy that the interest on these loans averages 4.34%. This is the real estate investor I talked about in the beginning. This is the plan that we put together for him back in January of 2021. By showing him this, here's how much interest the bank wanted from him: $1,123,195. This is how much interest he's going to pay: $231,468. That is interest savings of $891,726. All right. And I'm going to end my story with this, with Jacob and Esau. Okay. Jacob got the birthright from Esau by giving him some, he had a bowl of soup, for all intents and purposes. Bowl of soup. Esau's hungry. And Jacob says, I'll give you some food if you give me the birthright. All right. Give him the birthright. And now, I'm going to make a long story short, because I'm not going to preach a whole sermon here. Here's what happened. Jacob left, and Esau got angry because Jacob got the birthright. And when Jacob's father died and he was coming back for the funeral, he was afraid of Esau. He was afraid of Esau. And so Jacob sent ahead some gifts, a whole bunch of animals and stuff for Esau, to try to pave the way and to say he was sorry. All right. But Esau had already forgiven him. But here's the part of the story I want to tell you. What did Jacob send to Esau? He said, now, if we look at what he sent him, it's a lot. It would represent a lot of money is what Jacob sent to Esau. But guess what? Guess what it really was? It was interest on the birthright. Interest on the birthright is what he sent him. He took that birthright, and years later, okay, it became all these other animals. And the birthright just keeps growing with interest. And he sent him some of the interest. Didn't send it all birthright back, just some of the interest. So here's what I'm telling you, folks. You're spending your child's inheritance on interest today. Stop it. Stop it. Because we have a command that we should be laying up an inheritance for our children's children. And how can we do that if we're spending all of this money on interest? If we have a 5% loan today, the bank wants us to pay back 93% of what we borrowed. If it's 6%, the bank wants us to pay back 115.838% of what we borrowed. If it's 7%, the bank wants us to pay back 139% of what we borrowed. Stop it. Here's what this guy is doing. And I'm going to blow this up and then we're going to be done. Watch this. Blowing it up. If the bank wants $1,123,000 in interest and we show him how to pay $231,000 in interest, do you know what interest rate he would have to have from the bank to be able to do this? 0.67%. I don't care what the interest rate is. This is called the effective interest rate. The effective interest rate is what would the interest rate have to be to pay only $231,000 when the bank was looking for $1,123,000. And when you control how much interest, when you take control of your loan and pay back the amount of interest you deem necessary, not what the bank says, like a DVR, take control of when you want to watch TV and skip the commercials. Take control of your mortgage, your student loans, your credit cards, your whatever that's charging you interest, and you pay the amount of interest that you want to pay and stop giving it to the bank and take that money, invest it in your families, save $891,000. And I'm showing this real estate investor how he could take that money over 17 years and turn it into $9 million. Turn it into the increase your birthright by $9 million. And if you got to pay somebody, you're giving them the interest on the birthright. Take that money that would have gone to the bank and invested it in your family. And then you could be a lot closer to laying up an inheritance for your children's children. I want to thank everybody today for being here. I want to thank everybody who participated. I want to thank everybody who asked questions and who put comments in the section. I'm going to be here for you no matter who pushes back. Okay, go ahead.
Hello and good morning.
Good morning. What do you got to say?
Good morning, Mr. Don Daniel. I just wanted to say I apologize. I'm definitely late, but whenever I see you on and I have some time, I always try to jump in because the pill method is the truth.
Come on, Karan.
It is the truth. It is the truth. And anybody who is under the sound of my voice, I am definitely affirming what Mr. Don Daniel is teaching and showing us how to do. Yes, I am seeing the fruits of it. I did learn it several years ago, but Mr. Daniel reinforced it and I see it working. I'd like to talk to you offline though, Don, when you get a chance, sometime.
All right. Ice10k.com. All right. And all my information is there, ice10k.com. And hit me up on my Instagram with your number. I'll give you a call. I believe I have it already. But anyway, just do that just in case. Folks, I've got to get out of here. We only can do this for 2 hours. We started just a little bit late. I have about 3 or 4 minutes left. We're going to play something from the hip hop preacher in just a few seconds. And I want to tell you that your gifts will make room for you. Your gifts will make room for you. So keep doing what God has given you to do. And I'm going to ask you to pray for me so that we can help people who misunderstand what we're talking about to understand. Okay?
Don, if you don't mind,
yes,
because I know you were talking about Jacob and Esau.
Yes.
And then you mentioned that the gift that Esau gave was interest.
Jacob.
Is that Jacob gave was interest
on the birthright?
Literally?
Huh?
Is that literally?
Well, no, it's figuratively. So if you have a certain amount of animals, all right, and then 20 years later, after your animals have babies, don't you have more animals?
Ah, I see what you're saying. Okay, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
All right. Okay. So stop giving away your inheritance, folks. Let's hear from Dr. Eric Thomas. I'm going to say goodbye to everybody online, but if you're in here in Clubhouse, I'm going to come right back. And if you're online and you want to hear the rest of the story, come in here on Clubhouse, find P.I.L.L Method, and then come in Clubhouse. So let's hear from Dr. Eric Thomas right now.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down for my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.